On the night my parents left me alone in a hospital bed fighting for my life, my mother said something I will never forget. If you die, don't ruin your sister's birthday with it. I wish I could say I misunderstood her. I wish I could say there was context or confusion. But there wasn't, because she said it clearly, calmly, like my life was nothing more than an inconvenience. I was 17, hooked up to monitors, my chest burning, my body shutting down from a reaction that came out of nowhere, and instead of holding my hand or asking if I was scared, my parents were arguing about whether they would be late to my sister's party. That was the moment something inside me broke, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, permanently. The doctors were moving fast around me, voices overlapping, machines beeping, but all I could hear was my father saying, "She'll be fine, they said she's stable," like that one word erased everything that was happening. Stable. I wasn't stable, I was terrified, and I needed my parents, but they didn't see me, they saw a problem. A delay, something standing between them and their perfect daughter's perfect night. When they walked out, they didn't look back, not once, and that was the moment I realized I had been alone long before that hospital room. What they didn't know was that someone saw everything. My grandmother. She arrived minutes later, breathless, worried, her eyes searching until they found me, and I will never forget the way her expression changed when she saw I was alone. She didn't ask questions right away, she just took my hand and said, "I'm here," and for the first time that night, I believed it. But what I didn't know then was that she had heard everything in the hallway, every word my mother said, every excuse my father made, every decision that reduced me to nothing. She didn't confront them that night, not loudly, not in a way that would create a scene, but she remembered. She watched. And she kept everything. After I was discharged, I went back to a house that no longer felt like mine. Within days, the story had already changed. According to my parents, I had exaggerated my condition. I had tried to sabotage my sister's birthday. I had embarrassed the family. They said I was emotional, unstable, difficult. And people believed them because my mother knew how to make herself the victim, and my father knew how to stay quiet in a way that made her lies feel like truth. I tried to explain it first. I tried to tell my side, but every time I spoke, it felt like I was shouting into silence. So I stopped. I stopped defending myself, stopped expecting fairness, stopped believing that anything I said would matter. The day I turned 18, I left. No argument, no goodbye, just a suitcase, a small amount of money, and a decision that I would never again beg for love from people who treated me like I didn't exist. For 8 years, I built my life in silence. I worked jobs no one wanted, studied late into the night, failed, learned, tried again, and slowly created something stable, something real. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. And during those 8 years, my parents kept telling their version of the story. They told relatives I had mental health issues, that I had abandoned them, that they had tried everything to help me, but I refused. My mother even turned it into something almost admirable, talking about her strength in dealing with a difficult child. And still, I said nothing, because I understood something they didn't. The truth doesn't disappear, it waits. It waits for the moment when it no longer needs permission to be seen. And that moment came on Christmas Eve. I was alone in my apartment, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, just empty, when there was a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, there was a young girl standing there, maybe 10 years old, holding an old photo album like it was something fragile. She looked nervous, like she wasn't sure she should be there. "Are you Olivia?" she asked softly. I nodded. She held out the album. "My grandma told me to give this to you," she said. My heart stopped for a second because I knew exactly who she meant. I took the album slowly, my hands already shaking, and before I could ask anything else, she added, "She said you'll understand everything when you see it." And then she left. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the album, feeling like the past had just found its way back into my life. When I finally opened it, I wasn't ready for what I saw. The first photo was me in that hospital bed, pale, weak, surrounded by machines. And in the background, through the open door, were my parents walking away. I froze. My fingers tightened around the page as I turned it. There were more photos, different angles, different moments, all showing the same truth. Me alone, them leaving. Then there were notes, written carefully, explaining dates, times, conversations. My grandmother had documented everything. Every detail they tried to erase. Every moment they denied. She had kept the truth safe for 8 years. And as I kept turning the pages, I felt something shift inside me, not anger, not even sadness, but clarity. Because for the first time, I wasn't questioning myself. I wasn't wondering if I had overreacted or misunderstood. I was seeing the truth exactly as it happened. And this time, there was no one who could rewrite it. The more I looked through that album, the clearer everything became, like a fog lifting after years of confusion. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to piece together memories or question my own reality. I was looking at undeniable proof that I had been abandoned in the moment I needed them most. There were photos taken from the hallway, timestamps showing exactly when my parents left, notes describing the way my mother dismissed me, and even copies of hospital records confirming how serious my condition was that night. I had spent years convincing myself to move on, to let go, to accept that closure might never come, but I realized something as I sat there surrounded by those pages. Closure isn't something you wait for, it's something you take when the truth is finally in your hands. At the very end of the album, there was a letter, written in my grandmother's handwriting. She explained that she had tried to confront my parents, but they cut her off, accused her of taking sides, and slowly pushed her out of the family. She said she kept everything because she knew one day I might need it, not to hurt them, but to free myself. She wrote that she was proud of me, proud that I survived, proud that I built a life without them. And for the first time in years, I cried, not out of pain, but because I finally felt seen. That night I didn't sleep. I sat there going through every page, every detail, every piece of proof, and by the morning I had made a decision. I wasn't going to argue with them. I wasn't going to call them. I wasn't going to beg anyone to believe me. I was simply going to tell the truth. Calmly, clearly, completely. I scanned every page of that album, every photo, every note, every record, and I created a single post. No dramatic words, no insults, no anger, just facts laid out in order, a timeline of what happened, supported by evidence that couldn't be denied. Then I posted it publicly. And I waited. It didn't take long. Within hours, messages started coming in. People who had believed my parents were suddenly questioning everything. Relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years reached out. Even people from my parents' social circles began asking questions, because the truth has a way of spreading faster than lies when it finally has proof behind it. By the end of the day, my phone lit up with a message from my father. It was the first time he had contacted me in 8 years. "We need to talk," he wrote. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "There's nothing left to talk about. The truth already did." He called me after that, more than once, but I didn't answer. Not because I was angry, but because I was done. Done explaining, done defending, done hoping they would finally understand me. Days later, I heard that my mother had stopped telling her story, that people were questioning her, that the image she built was starting to fall apart. And then, a week later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, my father was standing there. He looked different, older, like the weight of everything had finally caught up to him. He looked at me for a long moment before speaking. "I didn't know," he said quietly. And maybe part of him believed that, maybe it was easier for him to believe he hadn't understood the situation, but I knew the truth. He had known enough, enough to stay, enough to choose differently. And he didn't. You knew enough, I said calmly. He tried to apologize, to explain, but I didn't need it anymore. Because closure doesn't come from apologies, it comes from truth. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt in the same way. I was simply free. Free from their version of me, free from their lies, free from the need to prove anything. I closed the door gently, not with anger, but with peace. Because for the first time in my life, I understood something completely. I was never the problem, and I never needed their approval to be whole. If this story touched you, make sure to subscribe for more powerful stories like this, and tell me in the comments, have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do, or had your story twisted by the people who were supposed to protect you?